So in this video, I want to walk you through an interesting web scraping experience project that I just had. And honestly, I've never done any web scraping before. I've done mostly front-end type of work, usually with HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript. So doing web scraping with Python was new to me. And they always say, when you're learning to program, to work on a project that is personally interesting to you or really addresses a need. And this is exactly what kind of landed in my lap here. So I trained as a therapist years ago, and I'm still looking into potentially becoming a therapist. And British Columbia, for a variety of reasons, is where I'm thinking of doing it. And so there's this directory of all the supervisors in British Columbia on this quite well organized and very pretty and easy to navigate website from the British Columbia Association of counselors of mental health counselors. But the problem is it's just these names, right? You just expand these individual names like this, and then you have to kind of go. They purposely, I think, put the phone number and they don't put the email because it's going to get spammed. And so it's really kind of a lot of work to. I see here they actually do have a bio, but even that seems to be what it's like taking people to PDF or something like that. So not the easiest to really kind of get a grip on things. And so I wanted to get a better sense of what I'm looking at here, what my options are, instead of having to click through random names. So obviously, if you have these expanding modules, these kind of accordion experiences, that means that behind the scenes, if we do view page source, it's all going to be right there. And I tested that with a few names. Let's pick a random person here. Andrew. I'm just gonna look up Andrew, and I can see that Catherine. What's her name again? Catherine. Andrew. I'm picking someone in the middle on purpose, just so it's kind of okay. So there she is, right here. And we can see beside her name, they've got the link to her website, and I've got a bunch of other data here, got her phone number and all that type of stuff. So I really started with that. I knew that if I just took this one link, I would be able to parse it. So the first thing I needed to do was I went to ChatGPT and I gave it a slice of this content. I copied about three supervisors, and I said, this is the content that we're going to be working on. And that starts over here. So I said, here's the content we're going to be working on. Can you please give me the code to parse this from a single URL? Very nice. So it gives it to me. And I just pasted it all in, and it explained what was going on, and it gave me this basic code. Here's where I was going to be putting in my URL, and here it's going to attempt to parse the data. So I don't even have Python. I actually realized I do have Python installed, but I didn't know that at the time. So I actually went and found an online platform called pythonhow.com, and I literally just pasted in the information right into here and literally ran it, and it already did what I asked it to do. What I asked it to do was take that content and then export it into a document called therapists.csv, so that I would have it in a comma separated document. I could then use it as a spreadsheet. Now, what that did was the very first version was that it didn't parse the right area. It didn't figure out, it actually pulled, the name website, like right over here, telephone, or it pulled, where it said website, but not the actual URL. It needed to be pulling the next thing over. So I explained this to ChatGPT. I said, you're pulling the wrong thing. And I actually did something that I learned better to do. In the future, when providing the code example, always include the data snippet I provided already in the code, meaning I deliberately wanted it to keep giving me ready-made code in the future. So here it does, and it goes, and it gave me a more in-depth parameters that was actually going to pull the right thing, and I did that, and immediately it worked a lot better. As you can see here, I did remind it. I needed to remind it to give me all that code right in there in the middle so that I would be able to pull it. So my first iteration was the most basic, where I was actually going to paste the code in and it was going to parse it that way. Okay. I encountered errors. It helped me overcome those errors. There was some formatting issues. I actually pasted it into Visual Studio Code and then had it correct the issues. it wasn't all smooth sailing. Eventually, we came up with some more error handling and stuff like that, and it started getting good. So then I was like, okay, I'm not going to paste in the URL, the HTML. I want you to actually take a URL, and I'm going to give you a URL, and you're going to pull it, right? Because the first version, I was actually just going to paste the content, but this page is really, really huge. And so I was like, I'll give you a URL, and you'll pull it that way. And I did, and you just paste in the URL right in here. And we ran that. And my mind was blown within just a few minutes. Was able to parse an entire database and got this amazing spreadsheet of every single person on the platform. Okay, I then created a filter because not everybody actually has a website, so I actually went and created a filter that removes the ones. I only wanted somebody who has a website so that I could easily go and look and more into them. So already I had that filter in place, and that I could have stopped there, and I already would have saved myself a lot of time and have a really organized way. Now I can reach out to people and make notes of who I've contacted. So already that was a huge win. But I did want to go a step further, and I wanted to, for example, to have people's emails, and I did want to have photos of people as well, because I do believe you can get a good sense of the kind of person if you're going to have chemistry with them just by their photos. So I actually went through and I actually said, I'm going to give you a list. Let's start with just a list of 3 to begin with, URLs. And I want you to go into those URLs, and I want you to parse from those URLs, both from the home pages only, any emails you find, and also any images, the URLs to the images, because Google Sheets is a really cool thing where you can actually paste in, a image using this format, something like this, equals img. I'll show you in a minute, actually, and it'll actually display the image right inside the cell. So that's something I wanted to have at least the ability to do. So I tried it with just a few. I manually put in the few. I got a few more errors again, had to parse it, had to fix it. Eventually, I put in 3 random URLs and ran it. It ran successfully. Actually had a random issue where I already had info.csv, so after running the whole thing, it threw an error. So I actually had to delete this file and run the whole thing again. It could be really, obtuse that way. I could obviously create some code that says if this file already exists, just create another file with a number 1 in the middle or something like that. But I didn't need to do that this time. And then went and actually ran it. So after testing a few back and forth and stuff like that, I was finally able to get it to work. And then I wanted it to run on everything. So I went back to this first spreadsheet, copied out this entire list of all of the websites, and pasted it into here, and asked ChatGPT to please format it for me with no line breaks and with the commas. I actually had to go back and forth a couple times, but eventually it did. So that's a very manual, annoying, time-consuming thing. I could have written a Python script for this, but here ChatGPT just did for me. In the beginning, they tried to do it in this version where they concatenated it. I had to clarify, please give me the entire list, because obviously I need the whole thing, and they did. And they gave me this entire massive list of websites. I pasted it in, ran it, and then I actually did a test on one of them with this image parameter. If I take this image right now and I paste it in, some of them throw an error, but if I throw this in right here like this, you should actually be able to see. Why isn't it showing? Yes, a very tiny image. I need to tweak it probably and get it to be bigger. But as a proof of concept, it shows you, it just pulled every image. So obviously this could be a lot of logos and stuff like that. But it's cool that I obtained those logos and I can do stuff with them in the future if I want. So now I read all of that, and I actually ended up with a separate database with the website, the emails, many emails. Some of them were blank, but many emails that I was able to obtain. Sometimes repetitive emails because you have the email mentioned multiple times on the page, or multiple therapists. But now what I would do, I stopped there, but what I would do is then run a script that combines the 2 spreadsheets together based on the shared website, because that's the shared parameter, the website. So I would get those emails right into here. And then on top of that, I would also have it clean up maybe some of this data. Remove any data that's obviously not going to work. Like there's data here that is not the type of URL that Google supports. Maybe this is just crowding me right now and I don't really need it, because I have multiple images from one single website, so it can get a bit overwhelming. clean up this data too a little bit. But it was super exciting to be able to go into a whole list of websites and actually then obtain the emails from there and to combine the two together. So hopefully you found this interesting. Again, doing this without installing any code, just running it right from here, and the CSVs that were generated were actually generated right over there.